Now we'll get this moved back ahead and we'll kind of go over some of these parts.
We're going to flip it up. We'll go over the used parts on each of these so we can see what the difference is, and then that seat trench will be there if you want to see it after we get done there. Kind of neat if you could work on your planters this way, save a lot. Beats being down on the ground.
So as we said, this has the new parts on it. These are used parts we pulled off of planters out of the store. First of all, we're going to go over the disc openers here. As I said in the video, take a couple business cards, set them in between the discs there, as far as they'll go, and then you take a tape measure, measure between the cards. In the video, they say between 1.25 and 2 1/4. We like to set them about 2 inches. That's right in the middle. You know, if they're getting worn out, then we want to go ahead and get those replaced before season. They also said in the video 14 inches. Want to get them replaced. And Brian has a couple.
Kind of did two different ones. I think this one is actually about 14.5, but it does make a difference on them on there.
If you look here at our used disc openers, you can actually see I can stick my finger in between the disc openers. The bearings are actually out in there, so they're pretty loose. So that's next. Our gauge wheel arm, or our gauge wheels, are kind of our primary scraper when it comes to dirt on that seat, on that disc opener. And we just want to make sure we have those adjusted up so they're against the seat disc, but they don't stop it from rotating in the planting position. And want to make sure that we have this ridge on there, and I'll let Travis talk to you about some of the problems we see.
Like Cody said, this is your primary scraper, and the profile you're looking for is a ramp up, and you want a nice straight edge on that because that is what's going to contact your seed disc, and it's going to give you that scraping effect. A lot of times you see them like this, they're actually rolled. The tire's about flat because it's had a lot worn down, but you go to the extreme where the ramp has actually started breaking off of this one, so you aren't getting a very good cleaning action with this. Always check your bearings on these two because that'll give you some play too besides the gauge wheel arms. But one thing I have seen with these newer planters with the plastic halves, you see that bearing is loose in the hub itself. So sometimes you may have to replace that hub, so always pay attention to see if it's a bearing or if it's a hub.
Now the gauge wheel arms, that's kind of where you get your adjustment for those gauge wheels. You just want to make sure these gauge wheel arms are tight, that we don't have any play in the bushings or the arms themselves to get that adjustment. These here have worn bushings, and what happens if we'd have these out of here, they actually have flat spots on the bushing, on the threads. That's typically what you see is this threaded piece wears first. As you can see, I can pull these away. It'd be kind of hard to ever get our gauge wheels adjusted where they need to be. And Brian has a couple of
Got the old 7000 series here, right here, with the old bolt. This is the new one, which is adjustable in and out, and this is where you get your wear in here. And they are replaceable. You can buy them, and usually that threaded piece is a piece that wears on them. I'm not saying the arm can't, but majority of the time it is a threaded screw.
As we said, your gauge wheels are the primary scrapers, but we do have seed disc scrapers. Here is a heavy duty option that mounts up here in the front of the seed discs. This one here, if you come up and look at it, actually has the rubber wheel type scrapers. And Brian has a couple other kinds to show you.
I've got the old 7000 style, the old spring steel ones. You can get the medium duty ones on there to replace it.
And here's the heavy duty ones. They have a tungsten steel edge on them. Get a very long wear life out of these. Use these for really sticky conditions.
Also, we have our frog that mounts in here, and it's got tabs on it for that seed tube to sit in. This one here is a new one, obviously, and then this one here, you can see with our seed disc and stuff, it's sticking out, but it's also narrow on the sides, like it's been rubbing against the seed disc. So it'll be time to replace that. It seems to have a lot of movement.
I have several. This is the old 7000 series. Then you came back, they added the seed tube. You can get the bigger holes for when these sit there and they wear. You can drill them out, put the bigger roll pins in. The new style They don't have the rope in anymore. They turn on, clip in, and then you have your seat tube guard there. And I guess you can see how much they can wear on there, and that's what wears on the seat tubes.
And our seed tubes in here, we have a new flush face one in this row unit. Like you said, they're designed for 5 mile an hour. That's what Deere's designed them for. And they seem to be a lot better because we don't have the sensor that mounts in there. This one here is a used, worn seed tube. It's starting to wear on the sides. You can take a look at that. And I'll let Travis talk to you about some of the effects of warranty.
Yeah, we gotta look at these seed tubes. When you start seeing your frogs look like this, there's a good chance your seed tubes are gonna be worn on the sides. You get this feathering effect on the side, and the seed can come off to the side. It may not go in the furrow at all. And also, when you get those worn frogs, and you get that play in your pins, it'll actually come back and hit the backside of the seed tube. And when it's doing that, it'll wear into the plastic. It'll create a mark inside here. And this isn't as bad as I've seen it, but it'll actually make that seed skip out a little bit. It may skip it so it doesn't hit the soil, and you won't get that spacing that you need.
Last thing I want to touch on this row unit stand is just the closing wheel frames. We have all the new parts over here. This closing wheel frame's tight. It's aligned with the seed trench, as we showed you in the pictures. Centered right over that seed trench. And we got to adjust it to get the good close. Now this row unit here, we have worn parts on it. They tend to wear in the bushings and sometimes in the frame. This one here is worn in both. We just get a lot of movement out of that. So you can see as you go through the field, this could get tilted off to the side and we'd be dragging the wheels through the seed trench, maybe packing that seed too much.
I just show them the wearing one. Now the bushings that go in there, how they can wear down inside. We have a new and used one up here, kind of take a look at.
Last, we're just gonna go over some vac meter maintenance. You guys get done planning for the year, go ahead and take these out, wash them up with soapy water. Gotta get that treatment and talc buildup off this. Then also, go ahead and wash up your seals, and the whole doors of the meters can be washed up. Get that buildup off. You can see a lot right here, right where the seed is gonna be running. And also right there, you need to check for cuts. Now you do that is, or how you get the cuts is, you'll see a groove in your plates here in the worn one. And they're wear down so much, it'll come to the edges from your knockout wheel. And you'll see that cut there, and you'll start getting a vacuum leak. So very important to check the grooving in your plates, replace them if needed, and same with your seals. You got that door off, take a look at your brushes, make sure they're not matted up with the residue or anything, make sure they're still straight. And when you go back from beans to corn, make sure you change those brushes too. And that is with the ProMax 40 only. When you go to the ProMax, you got the double step brush. And when you're running a 30 cell corn disc or a bean disc, you got to use a single step brush. Then it comes down to getting the airflow through the meter. These here are very important because this helps get air in and air out. This one here is in the mini hopper, and this is taking the air pressure from delivering that seed. It's bleeding it out to the outside. And this here is where the vacuum is actually coming in, and this is the one you're really going to worry about because it can suck trash up into it. So you don't want to get a leaf or anything there blocking the air, and then you'll start losing some vacuum.
A couple of the other things is just your chains, make sure that they're not rusty. Got hard spots in them once they go over the sprockets, that'll skip that corn. There are pro drives you can switch to on the 7200s and up, and then your newer planters already have that already on. Anything else you think of, guys?